You have a budget of 25 odd lakh rupees, you want to spend it on a big 6 or 7 seater SUV, well, you can't do better than these two. This is the MG Hector 2023 facelift, and this is the XUV700. Now both these cars, SUVs rather, are big on features, big on style, and big on everything. But the question is, which one offers more bang for your buck? Let's find out. So let's come to the driving impressions of these cars, and first I'm going to drive the Hector. Now the Hector, as we have come to know in the past, it is a car that's meant primarily for comfort and ride quality. Well, yes, that continues in the new Hector because it has the same 1.5 litre engine. So quick driving impressions. Well, if you're driving it primarily in the city, I think this is the car that you should pick between this and the XUV, because first, it's very effortless. It has got a CVT transmission. The 1.5 litre engine, it has around 140 bhp and 250 Newton meters of torque. So in the city, you like it because it's effortless and it doesn't feel underpowered. Yes, it's a heavy car. Yes, it's a big car. But even then, I think performance is very adequate. And in the city, you'll also notice that at low speeds, it has less turbo lag than the XUV. So I enjoy driving it more in the city because the visibility all around is also great. The transmission is very smooth. It's more refined also, I'd say, even though the XUV is also very refined. But this is slightly better. Now, in terms of ride quality also, this car is tuned for comfort. So the ride quality is plush. It can go over everything without breaking a sweat. And most importantly, at city speeds, at low speeds, its ride quality is much better than the XUV. Now, if that matters to you, and you are more of a city dweller in the sense you don't go out on highway trips more often, I think you'll be very happy with the performance and the refinement of the Hector. Now, if you take it out on open roads, even then it is quite adequate. It doesn't feel underpowered at all. You can maintain a steady cruise of 120 kilometers per hour on the highway. And it has also got ADAS system. So you have got lane keep assist and adaptive cruise control. So you can maintain that thing. But long story short, I think this is a car for someone who enjoys the gadgets, who enjoys an effortless drive, and who's more into the comfort side of things instead of asking for more performance or is looking for something that's inspiring to drive. Because even in terms of handling, it's very neutral and it is quite boring also at times. Now, in that regard, the steering is sort of lifeless. At high speeds, it is okay. But if you go around the corner, there is a lot of body roll and it also feels very uninspiring to drive. So these are the two drawbacks of this car. Now, having said that, there are a couple of things that I'm not a fan of. First and foremost, I've been driving this car for 2 days now, and I find this new smart indicators which get on by themselves the most annoying feature in this car. They are absolutely useless and they'll drive you up the wall. If you're driving this car in the hills, every time you turn the steering wheel, they start indicating automatically, and it is very annoying because it sends the wrong signal to the person who's following you. So you look like an idiot, I'd say that. Definitely, I look like that. And at the end of the day, I found it to be very annoying. Now, of course, it is a small thing, but it will irritate you for sure. Another thing is, yes, the ride quality is phenomenal, but at high speeds or if you go over sharp bumps, it is a little noisy, and that you'll notice it. The other thing is the seats. Well, yes, they are comfortable, but they're not as comfy as they are in the XUV. So seats in the XUV are more plush. These, they don't have the lower back support. So if you're going long distance, you'll definitely notice this bit. So these are the 2 or 3 things that I don't quite like about the Hector. But overall, for me, the MG Hector defines the word effortless, because if you just want to go on a highway cruise, if you're driving it in the city, it feels very calm, very easy to drive. And I think that's what matters to a lot of customers. So they are going to love this car. Now, before I forget, there's also one thing about the Hector. It's that it drinks quite a lot of fuel. So on the highway, it was drinking more fuel than the XUV. And even in the city, it's going to drink more because it is a turbo engine. It made it to a CVT, which gets noisy if you're asking for more performance, if you're thrashing the motor. And it definitely drinks a lot more than the XUV. We calculated on a nearly 1,000 kilometers road trip, it returned 9 kilometers to a litre. Whereas the XUV, surprisingly, was more efficient, not by that much, but it was around 10 to 11. So it has a bigger engine, but this thing is more thirsty. From behind the wheel, the XUV definitely feels like a more sorted product than the MG. And the reason is quite simple. It is definitely a better engineered product, and on paper also it is superior to the MG. Now first things first, it has got a bigger and more powerful engine. So this is powered by a 2-liter 4-cylinder turbo engine, and that produces 197 bhp and 380 newton meters of torque. So that means in terms of outright performance, this is definitely any day better than the Hector. Now it has also got a proper 6-speed automatic transmission that is a torque converter, so it's refined and not noisy, and in terms of performance also it is quite seamless. Now like I said, in terms of outright performance, this is a much quicker car, and it has that sort of performance that will keep you thrilled every single day. Now what you'll notice driving it in the city, and especially at low speeds, is that there is a fair bit of turbo lag. So below 1500 rpm, it's not as responsive as the MG, I'd say, because the MG with its CVT transmission and its smaller engine, it does a slightly better job than the XUV in the city, because power throttle inputs in that, they are sort of more responsive. That's what I noticed driving both these cars back to back in daily traffic conditions. But on all the other counts, this is definitely a much superior engine, and it has got the performance, and it is brilliant in every single way. Now yes, in terms of refinement, it's not as refined as MG's, because it definitely feels a little gruff, as you can also hear, I think, right now. I'll just keep quiet for a bit, and you'll see after the speed breaker when I pick up, it has that sort of gruff behavior, especially during cold starts. You'll notice it feels more like a diesel because it's not a high revving engine. And the great part is, because it is like that, it is of that nature, it feels like a diesel as well. It has got a strong mid-range performance. There is punch throughout the rev range from 2000 rpm all the way up to 5000 rpm. That is the sweet spot of this engine, and it performs absolutely flawlessly in that range. Next up, the ride and handling. Even in that department, the XUV is a better car than the MG. Now, the ride quality, of course, it is brilliant at all speeds. But yeah, I'd give it to the MG that at low speeds it feels better, it feels more supple, more absorbent, and it's not noisy. This one, on the other hand, it feels a little busy at low speed. If you're going over bad surfaces at low speeds, it does feel a little noisy, and there's a lot of vertical movement as well. So you'll notice that if you drive these cars back to back. But in isolation, this is very comfortable. You won't have any complaints about this ride quality. But as the speed rises and you're doing close to triple-digit speeds on the highway, that's where the XUV excels, because it feels like a more planted car. It feels well engineered, I'd say. The MG is also quite good, but this definitely feels more planted, more stable, and you feel more connected to this car because the steering weighs up adequately, it doesn't feel lifeless, and it feels that it is connected to the front wheels. So that's something that you miss in the MG, but in the XUV you feel more connected to the car, and I think that is a key difference between this and the MG. Now the other thing about the XUV is that it comes with something called frequency selective damping. So what it actually does is it changes the damping when you go over bad surfaces or when you're on a smooth road. So it firms it up slightly if you're on a smooth road, and if you're going over bad roads, it adjusts the damping according to the road surface. So this is not an electronic thing, it is mechanically actuated. So it's not adaptive suspension per se, but it brings that sort of magic in the ride quality of this car. And similarly, on the handling front, the XUV feels better because it has got body roll, but it's not as uninspiring to drive as the MG, because this one, like I said, it feels more connected. So even if you're going around bends, it does have a lot of body roll. I'm not going to say it's a corner carver, but compared to the MG, you feel slightly more comfortable in this car, doing all that sort of stuff. But yeah, if you're going to drive it enthusiastically around bends or in hills, you will notice that the passengers at the back, they're not going to be very comfortable because it does roll a lot. So in that regard, as drivers' cars, they are not as great, both of these cars. But yeah, the XUV, like I said, it's slightly better on that front. If you want to be chauffeured around, the MG makes more sense because it has got these individual captain seats which are missing in the XUV. So this is the 6-seater version, the Hector Plus of the MG. And as you can see, these seats are very comfortable. There's a lot of knee room, a lot of headroom, and it's also got reclining function. So I can sit here quite comfortably. So overall, I'd say the second row of the MG is better than the XUVs. Now, since the XUV is the wider car here, of course 3 people can sit here very comfortably. The seats are very wide and comfy, and you've got great under thigh support as well. The legroom is also quite great. It is as long as the MG, so in terms of legroom, I think this is more or less the same. Even the headroom is quite good, and overall the cabin is nice and airy. Now, where the SUV lacks, well, in terms of support, in terms of back support especially, I find this seat to be not that supportive as the MG, because MG has again captain seats. So for me, if you want to be chauffeured around, I think that makes more sense. But overall, if you have a family, if you have a big family, if you have at least 5 passengers, I think this definitely makes more sense. The third row of the Hector is an absolute disaster. As you can see, there is absolutely no space for me. If you are a fully grown adult, well, this is worse than being in a cage, because you are absolutely crammed in your position. For kids also, I think there's not much space unless they are really toddlers, because there is absolutely no knee room here. Well, yes, the headroom is okay, even for my size, but this third row, well, it is not the best. It's definitely not better than the XUVs as well. So yes, in terms of creature comforts, you've got this fan speed control, you've got AC vents, you've also got a USB port, but you can't sit here for longer durations. If you're a family man, it's the XUV700 that you should consider over the Hector all day, every day. Because as you can see, there is a lot more room here, and I'm perched here quite comfortably. Of course, it's not the most comfy third row, but in this segment, I think it is quite good. Now, the only limitation is perhaps the headroom, which is sort of limited as compared to the MG, but this seat is definitely more comfy, more roomy than the Hectors. And I think not just kids, even adults of my size, I'm 5'8", can sit here comfortably for shorter duration, as in 1 or 2 hour journeys. So this is definitely more comfortable. It has also got AC vents, and it has also got a blower speed fan control. Of course, it doesn't have a USB port, but it does have a 12-volt socket. But long story short, if the third row is a must for your new SUV, I think the XUV700 wins this battle hands down.
When it comes to their designs, both the MG and Mahindra have bold styling. In its latest avatar, the Hector has become the king of bling, as it gets a massive chrome grille and other flashy bits and bobs. Some may find the Hector a bit too chintzy for their taste, but the fact is that most buyers in this segment want that extra bling. Between the two though, the XUV is more SUV-like, as it's more butch and in your face. Plus, with styling elements like double C-shaped LED DRLs, flush door handles, an aggressive bumper design, and prominent haunches, the XUV has a slightly more premium appeal too. Although both vehicles have identical wheelbases and are similar in length and height, the XUV is substantially wider. And while the MG has a tall boy appearance, the XUV is more proportionate from all angles. The top spec versions of both vehicles come with 18-inch alloy wheels, but the Hector looks under-tired because of its large wheel wells. In terms of creature comforts and in-car tech, they are both loaded to the gills. Big screens, panoramic sunroofs, ADAS, 360-degree cameras, wireless Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, auto headlamps, rain sensing wipers, and what have you. That said, the MG does have an edge over the XUV in this department. For instance, it gets auto-dimming ORVMs, ventilated front seats, electrically adjustable front passenger seat, a power tailgate, 8-color ambient lighting, and uncountable voice commands, all of which are missing in the XUV. Not to mention, the MG's 14-inch portrait touchscreen looks and feels mega in comparison to the XUV's 10-inch screen. The user interface is also better and more intuitive. However, it isn't flawless. It takes quite a lot of time to boot, and the response can be slow at times. And since the screen is massive, it can be distracting on the move, especially when you're fiddling with digital aircon controls and can't find the right settings. The XUV's display isn't glitch-free either. At times the screen freezes, and during the test it happened on a couple of occasions to us while using Google Maps via Apple CarPlay. However, the good thing is that there are physical controls for the aircon and a chunky rotary dial to navigate through different menus effortlessly. All of this makes this cabin more practical and simpler to use. Both cars are equipped with level 2 ADAS. We didn't test them extensively, but during the highway run, we found the MG system to be slightly better and more seamless than that of the XUV. The MG's ADAS systems are also easier to turn on or off thanks to quick access buttons on the steering wheel. In the XUV, it's a bit more complicated as you have to scroll through different submenus.
The choice is really simple between these two. If you want something that's big on style, creature comfort, and is effortless to drive everywhere, well, the Hector makes more sense because it has that sort of vibe, and it's also the king of bling, like I said earlier. But if you want an overall more rounded product, well, I think the XUV is a better bet because it does everything that the Hector does. Plus, it's also more engaging to drive and it has got an explosive powertrain. Yes, it is slightly more expensive, but it is worth that extra money. So do share your thoughts about this comparison test. What do you think about these two SUVs? Subscribe to our YouTube channel, like this video, share it with your friends and family, and also stay tuned to autoX for more automotive related content and more such videos.